maybe. Not the best way to actually start this, but we're gonna see. Trying to see if you guys can see me. Is my mic hot? I think my mic is hot. I'm almost certain my mic is hot because I just literally just made a fool of myself just saying is my mic hot. Yep, we're hot. Start this, but yep, we're hot. All right, guys, give me a second here. We're actually gonna just share some things, and then we will go from there. With this wonderful Blurred podcast that we love to do here. So just give us 1 second, because I like to share. Well, share a podcast, but food, nah. But just give me 1 second, folks, before we get into the shindig. Yeah. All right, I think that'll do it. All right, gravy, cool. We're gonna rock with that. So, welcome everybody to Get Bit, the podcast. The Blurred podcast is for blurs and nerds to enjoy, because we talk about everything in the world of pop culture, from anime to sci-fi to video games to movies and television and comics and anime and things of that nature. I'm your host, Will Buchanan, and yes, this is a Monday edition. I know usually we do Get Bit podcast on Sundays, but we had a lot, and by a lot, I mean I definitely did have a lot of things to cover, because a lot of stuff did actually come out, and as promised, we are going to start with some reviews. I say reviews just because, like I said before, I said last week I have a rule on Get Bit podcast that anything new, especially in the words of video games and things of that nature, I give it a week before I review it. A week, because not everybody can be able to grab it on time, and not everybody can be able to get it as soon as humanly possible. So we give it a week for everybody to enjoy and to go from there and things of that nature before we talk about it. So it's been a week, so we're going to go ahead and go into it first. We're going to start with what I thought of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. And for all those that don't remember, here's the trailer.
Remember, Miles, you're Spider-Man. They really think they can get us, they checking and drip when I flip up the building. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to take on the world. You can't stop me now.
Exciting and shocking. Okay, so let me go ahead and go into this, guys. So basically, Spider-Man, like I said before, this is a spoiler-filled review. So before I go into this, I am going to give details about this game. If you have not played it, or you want to experience these things for yourself, now is the good time not to listen to me. Because I'm basically going to go into it. So I'm going to give it a 3, 2, and 1, as I literally counted 1, 2, 3. But all right, we've already said our piece on this. So go into it. Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Obviously, I said it before on the non-spoiler review. It is definitely fun. Is it short? Yes, it is very short. Probably 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. Even if you did all the side missions and things of that nature, you may have gotten, maybe on a good note, 8 hours of gameplay. On the heavy side, maybe 12 hours if best. That being said, I know a lot of the major complaints about Miles Morales is that it was short. It wasn't as long as the original Marvel Spider-Man, but I think that's a good thing, and I'll tell you why I think that's a good thing. Because keep in mind, this is a spin-off into the Spider-Verse, if you really want to think about it. Miles Morales was actually the next incantation of it. I mean, you might see a Spider-Gwen or Spider-Pig or all the other Spider-Mans that were actually introduced into Into the Spider-Verse from the Netflix adaptation. So I can understand from a story standpoint, you are going off a different area of New York, specifically Harlem, so it's not going to be as massive as it was in the Marvel Spider-Man game. So, that being said, it did not take away from the story the fact of Miles Morales really coming into his own and, having this identity, kind of a sort of identity issue as being, having, Peter B. Parker Spider-Man, and of course, him as his own Spider-Man in the same city, where everybody kept on referring to him as the other Spider-Man. So there was a little bit of identity issue, a little bit of a story there. At the same time, Peter is now pretty much, I'm not going to say written out the story, but pretty much oversees on an assignment with Mary Jane, which leaves Miles Morales to basically take on his own superhero outing himself. So, again, I thought that was interesting, to just give him the world of Harlem, because even Harlem in itself was still a big city. Even Harlem itself was still a city within a city, if you think about it. And again, the whole idea of the story surrounding him and getting his mom involved, which again, of course, his mom was running for office. The fact of Aaron's, especially his brother, his father's brother, which again was the Prowler, when he, clocked Miles Morales in 5 seconds of him being in that suit. So again, him trying to be the Prowler did set up that family dynamic and drama, and of course the Thinker, of course, being his best friend, and then leading to the whole situation with Newfound, which was actually the energy source in the game. It just led to an interesting story. So, albeit it was short, and again, that was the main problem with a lot of people. The game was actually short, because if you're like me, you're used to long games. I mean, keep in mind, I'm a guy that's used to playing the Final Fantasies, the Assassin's Creeds, the Phantasy Star Oceans Online, the Final Fantasies Online, Legends of Zelda. Those games where you're probably cranking out at least a good 40 to 50 hours on the low side. So again, it's going to be interesting, like I said now, because Spider-Man Miles Morales came out, and yeah, it was 12 hours, give or take, but it was still fun to play. And that's the thing I wanted to tell people about, was just the abilities of the course of the Venom striking and the invisibility, and the fact that it really did change your gameplay, because aside from really having the same set of moves that Marvel Spider-Man once had, you also have Miles Morales, except that you have it with Venom strikes and with invisibility, which definitely changed the way you play. I actually enjoyed fighting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Marvel Spider-Man and their combo and their fight engine, but the simple fact of the matter is, you put Miles Morales' skills to it, and it's just a whole different dynamic, which I loved. Now, again, the one thing that always ties back to Spider-Man has always been the story, and the story itself was beautiful. I mean, it had a wonderful climax. Of course, everybody thinking that Miles had died, the fact that his mom had found out that he was Spider-Man, the fact that his uncle tried to save him by kind of turning him in, sort of. So again, it's a lot of that, to where, like I said, those different dynamics actually tied into the story and just really just brought you in, even to the point to where at the end, where it's almost like Miles came into his own. And of course, going from there as far as still training with Spider-Man. Now, that also being said, do I think that the story itself can move forward? Yes, I think it can. I mean, you did actually see in the part of the game where Miles Morales ran to the Kingpin on one of the side missions, and of course, that can open up a dynamic to the Kingpin, or the whole idea with Rhino, which I think they kind of. I'm not gonna say more of Spider-Man's villains, because like I said, it's that awkward. It's that awkward Supergirl, Superman, Batwoman, Batman mixture, because what enemies can you give Spider-Man as far as Miles Morales that wasn't already introduced with Peter B. Parker's enemies? I mean, yeah, Rhino was a good one. At the same time, could they have introduced more from the Sinister Six? I mean, yeah, you could have. I mean, you could have introduced Vulture. You could have introduced Shocker or Doc Ock, Dr. Octopus for anybody that doesn't know. You could have introduced any of those, but I did like the fact that they said before. I did like the fact, like, going to the end, because like any Marvel game, you should be paying to the end credits, and even when the end credits have rolled off, the fact of Norman Osborn, and he mentions his son, and of course, let's be honest, this looks like it's going to be the introduction of the Green Goblin, just because of how it's set up. Now, does that mean that there's going to be a sequel to Miles Morales in the future? Possibly. I do like the fact of how they actually set that up to where Miles Morales' story is just beginning, and I think it can move forward. Now, it just depends on what they do. Now, of course, a lot of people have said about Miles Morales, should this have been a DLC? It's hard to argue, just because it's in that gray area. I mean, it's too big to be a DLC, but in the same sense, from a gaming size standpoint, it's kind of considered on the small side to be a full-size game. I still enjoyed it regardless, just because of how good it really was, which kind of made you kind of overlook the fact that, yes, it wasn't the same size as the Marvel Spider-Man. It may have not included such content, but who knows what Sony may do down the road, because just like the Marvel Spider-Man, we didn't see DLCs till much later. So who's not to say that DLCs may exist for Spider-Man Miles Morales? I loved it. I love the story and I love the gameplay. Like I said before, we'll definitely be playing again and again. And like I said, it just leaves the door open for either DLCs or new games. So definitely would recommend purchasing that if you haven't already. But again, my just 2 cents about that. The next review I have, again, is spoiler. It's still good. I'm not going to try to spoil this because, again, I'm still playing this because, of course, it's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And if you want to have an idea of the story, I actually found a story trailer that would explain Valhalla a little bit better. Again, it's just spoiler filled. So if you still want to play Valhalla or you haven't had a chance to, again, please mute me or try to avoid it because we're going to go ahead and play the trailer for it.
You intrigue me, Wolf-Kissed. Orphan and sibling, warrior and poet. You are many in one, it seems.
Eivor!
Sigurd! I missed you, brother.
Randvi, your husband returns, bringing gifts and riches to share.
And new friends, I see.
We cannot stay in Norway, not without fueling more war. So we push forward. A new kingdom awaits.
From here to Valhalla, I will always be on your side, Sigurd. Always.
Eivor, Sigurd, I give you England.
This land already has many rulers. From the cunning King Alfred of Wessex, to the warmongering sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, they have no wish to share the kingdoms they have made their own.
I do not fear these men, nor any others who would harm us. These lands bring our people hope. I will do whatever it takes to make England our home. The Saxons hunger for Norse blood. Let's give them a taste, brothers.
These conquests have given you a home, but there is more to this land, Eivor. A darkness unseen, an unknowable threat. One bound to England's destiny, and to yours.
Okay, and that's pretty much the story trailer, like I said before. I'm still actually playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What do you expect? It's an Assassin's Creed game. If you can beat that game, I said this before. I know there's speedrunners. I am not a speedrunner. I try not to be. Kudos if you could pull this off. But Assassin's Creed for me is, if I played it for maybe, if I was able to get 8 to 10 hours every day, then maybe I can knock it out in 5 days. But now it's going on a week, and I'm still, and like I said, with Assassin's Creed games, this is what you expect. You expect a full-on story. You expect a lot of content. You expect a lot of the story to draw you in. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla's story did actually draw me in quite a lot, with Eivor and the fact of, you know, they really did bring into the history, especially if you remember the name Ragnar Lothbrok. If you watched Vikings on History Channel, they actually did tune in to that part of history to where you start to recognize some names like, I've heard that name. And again, like I said before, it just draws you in with Assassin's Creed. And I know for a lot of people right now, they're sitting there still hoping for, you know, feudal Japan and China. I mean, we might get there. But what I love about Valhalla's story, it's kind of similar to me. It's similar to kind of Kratos' story in God of War. I mean, the whole thing about, you know, trying to conquer things, of course, the mythological side of it with Odin, and just really the actual introduction of the Assassins and the Order of the Templar. It is just, I mean, like I said before, so far from what I've read, from what I've played, it just looks like it's cool. I mean, from what I played so far, gameplay-wise, it's smooth. Yes, there are some abilities that, of course, with every Assassin's Creed does come with it. The dual-wielding axes, I just want to sit there and say at halftime, not takes away from WWE Samoa Joe, but sometimes I just want to go into a place, you know why I ain't got no problems? You know why I got no problems? I'm holding 2 axes! No problems! It sounds better when he says it. But again, yes, you do have the dual wielding. You do, of course, have the, of course, as the classic, you know, knife gauntlet, as the dagger gauntlet, if you will, just for quick assassinations. But story-wise, at this point, I don't really have a lot to say about it because, like I said, this is probably the one where it won't be spoilers. But again, it is where, like I said, with Assassin's Creed games, it's not disappointing, and I feel like I'm barely halfway into it right now. Especially since the fact of the matter, they've already planned. For Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they've already planned 3 additional DLCs next to it. Similar to Odyssey and how they did Origins. I expect the same with Valhalla, but I just love it so far. And like I said, I know it's not really spoiler-filled a lot because, like, usually if it's spoiler-filled, it means I've beaten it. And, yeah, with all the things I've done, I just haven't beaten that one yet, but I'm working on it. But like I said before, I did love it, and if you were actually on the fence about it, then you definitely should purchase it. You will not be disappointed. But speaking of disappointed, and I mean disappointed in a very good way, but a sad way, Supernatural has wrapped up its season finale, and like I said before, this is spoiler filled. So if you're in the middle of watching Supernatural or you're way back in the seasons, now would be a good time to again mute me just because I don't want to spoil it for you. But here's the trailer for the final season. Okay, so that was actually the trailer for the 15th season. Like I said before, I'm going to go into, like I said, I'm going to talk about the last episode and how the season ended. So if you're still watching Supernatural or you're catching up, now would be the good time to mute me as I'm about to talk about it. Again, with Supernatural, like I said before, I've stuck with it. A friend of mine who will remain nameless has said that Supernatural should have ended at season 5 just because they're perfectionists, but, you know, that's their opinion. It should be honored and respected. I've loved every episode of Supernatural. There were some knockoffs. There was some issues with the story. But I think 15 did wrap it up as well. Because for all those that are wondering with 15, it was literally kind of the war with God, or / Chuck, as he was going by. And, of course, the last couple of episodes where it looked like there was going to be the end for Sam and Dean. And present company, especially with Castiel sacrificing himself to save Dean's life. And, of course, Jack was being depowered. I did like the twist of how, you know, how were 2 humans going to, quote unquote, beat God at his own game. And it was interesting to see how they did that. And I said, I love the story of how they said that Jack, because of him being turned into some sort of, you know, God bomb, I guess you could say, had some altering effects to the where he could actually absorb energy. And the fact of the matter that they used Michael, and of course his fanboying himself, and of course using Lucifer as a way of, you know, channeling that power into Jack, it somehow powered up, especially with God actually beating down Sam and Dean, especially at the end. All of that power literally went into Jack to the point to where Jack depowered Chuck. And apparently Jack is now the new head, and supposedly Jack not only depowered Chuck, but he absorbed Amara and now has become the new head in charge, I guess you could say. I guess you could say he's God. In which, you know, Jack, once they depowered Chuck, Chuck was kind of like, oh, I guess this is the part of the story where you kill the villain. And Sam and Dean just sat there and said, no. He says, that's too good for you. As if anything was going to happen, we would just let you, you know, let you be a human to where you would live out the rest of your days. You would eventually die and no one would know who you are, which in that case was a worse ending than actually ending the man himself. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty good idea of storytelling, to be like, no, because at the end of it all, you still showed mercy, but in the same way, you still kind of let him off to a worse death. But again, I loved it just because it wasn't the traditional Supernatural ending that we're used to. We're not used to, you know, cliffhangers or, you know, Sam and Dean, one of them's dead, one of them's alive, one of them's in hell, one of them is contained by Lucifer in the trap. It's different. even more so to where, of course, Jack, now being the new guy in charge, consumed Amara and sat there and told Sam and Dean that, he's going to be gone, but still around. And of course, bringing everybody back that was actually taken by Chuck as far as the reaping goes, I thought that was pretty cool too. The only problem I have with the story is Amara, where Amara was also the other half of, if Chuck is the light, Amara's the darkness, that she went with Chuck so easily. I mean, she, quote unquote, could go one-on-one with Chuck and decided to join up with him, even though previous seasons where Dean and Sam were fighting her as part of the darkness, she seemed more formidable. But yet, when it came to her brother, she just said, "Okay, cool, we can join up." That was probably the one weakest part of the story I had a problem with, because you would think she would be like, "Wait a minute, you want to destroy life as all we know it, and you want me to join you?" No. I mean, I would think you would get that, but again, like I said, that part of the story I just didn't get. But I did love the fact of, them showing that, Sam and Dean did have the split, Dean dying on a vampire hunt, and then, being able to go to heaven and seeing and seeing everybody, and then just going from there and saying, he's just enjoying heaven, saying, time works differently up here. And then you have Sam, living the rest of his life, having a kid, watching him grow up, and eventually he passes and meets Dean in the afterlife, and then everything's happily ever after, which I think was the best way to solve it, just because, when it comes down to the whole thing about Supernatural, is more like death is only the beginning. And I thought that was a great ending to it. I mean, I thought it was, between Sam and Dean, finally meeting up in the afterlife and deciding at this point they've earned it along with everybody else. And of course, not to say there's not any more demon hunting, because at this point it does kind of leave it open-ended for a spinoff. I kind of hope they don't, because like I said, Supernatural itself was a great 15-season story, and I don't think we need to just milk it from there, because at that point it just gets very good and terrible. But I loved it, and hopefully you guys did too. And I want to know you guys in the comments that are watching this, let me know what you think as far as Spider-Man Miles Morales, as far as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and of course how Supernatural ended. I did also forget to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which also had an ending too, which I will cover in another podcast. But again, I loved it. But also other new things that did come out, just to switch gears for a second before I go into my final review of Destiny, before I go to my review of Destiny Beyond Light, there was another thing that just happened to come up that I thought was cool. It brought me back to my childhood, and I watched all 13 episodes of it on Hulu. I am talking about Animaniacs.
Are symptomatic of a fundamental lack of originality in Hollywood.
Have you no shame?
Here's your check for the Animaniacs reboot, you sellouts.
It's time for Animaniacs. You should see our new contracts.
All right, guys, there's a lot of pressure on our first lines. Wait, don't. Make sure it's good first. Maybe something reminiscent of the first season?
22 years later, and I'm still a knockout.
I've tried online dating, but I keep getting catfished. How do I know she's even real?
This tablet contains the sum of all human knowledge.
All human knowledge in one easy-to-swallow tablet? Quantum mechanics, quinoa wraps, Queen Bey. We've missed so much. Oh, sounds like an odyssey.
My sandwich! Just where I left it.
Yakko, turn on the black light. Nothing unusual there.
Gee, Brain, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
I am the Pegasus. I come bearing horrible tidings of war from the...
Yeah. Less talky, more flappy.
We're Animaniacs, totally insane.
Never mansplaining.
Animaniacs.
Now, the adoration pours in.
Nerf!
Now, I don't know about you guys, Animaniacs actually brings me back to my childhood. Like I said, of all the you actually, side note, do you wonder why a lot of us actually have sarcasm and just a little bit cynical? That show is one of the main reasons. But Animaniacs, for all those that don't remember, they used to be on the WB a long time ago, did actually get rebooted on Hulu, and did have 13 episodes for this season. They actually have a 2-season contract, so if you're like me, and when it first came on, you basically decided to binge watch all 13 episodes. It is awesome. It has not changed. The one-liners are still there. The subtle jokes are still there. I love the fact that they try to include a lot of today's themes. I'm not going to go too much into it. Like I said before, it's there for you to see, but trust me, it is still there. It is still funny. They even poke fun, because I know a lot of people are actually wondering, okay, you have the Animaniacs, you have Pinky and the Brain, but where's Good Feathers? Where's Chicken Boo? Where's You're not a man, you're a chicken boo. I'm sorry, it's stuck in my head. But a lot of the other ones, a lot of the other side cartoons, if you will, which I know a lot of people are like, well, it explains itself. You just have to watch Animaniacs to see exactly why they explain why the other ones aren't there yet. But trust me, it's worth watching. And like I said, it's actually worth watching, go back and re-watching, because you don't find, like I said, good comedy cartoons that are kind of borderline on the subtle, because trust me, the fingerprints joke, we didn't get it as kids, but as adults now, you're just like, how did we slip that past the censors? How did they get that past the censors? Especially the Donald Trump joke, which again, if you saw a couple of episodes, you'll see where the Donald Trump reference comes into. But I loved it. It's honestly worth watching it. It is honestly safe for kids. I know a lot of people are like, but Animaniacs is too adult. It's actually very safe for children. Trust me, because the subtle jokes, they won't get, even in today's age. But Animaniacs is definitely fun watching. Now, my last review before I go into a little bit of movie news that I have is Destiny 2 Beyond Light. Now, me and some friends did finish the main let me try that again. Me and my friends did actually finish the main campaign for it. But for all those that don't know, here's the video, at least to explain the Beyond Light.
Chains! For centuries we have been bound by them. We have become pawns of our own devices. No longer!
Walks among us. We are all in great danger. My kind must survive. Please, send help.
Where is the signal coming from?
Here, Europa. Wait! Old friend, these powers, they are changing you.
Aramis's presence on Europa is not happenstance. Obsession propelled her here.
Our enemies stand no chance against this power. The great machine will finally know our pain.
Okay, so that's the trailer for Destiny 2 Beyond Light. And again, my review of this, like I said before, if you haven't played it or you don't want to know about it, now would be a good time to mute me, because Destiny 2 Beyond Light is actually the new expansion for Destiny 2. I keep hoping there's going to be I know there's going to be a Destiny 3, but I kind of wonder how long are we going to keep up with Destiny 2, really. Just because, you know, Destiny 1 did have 3 expansions. Destiny 2, of course, with Forsaken and Shadowkeep, and now Beyond Light making 3. I wonder where Destiny 3 is going to come into place. But let's talk about Beyond Light. So, of course, Beyond Light does highlight the Fallen, specifically called the Liski, which, of course, I did not know that. Was like when they give the name. That the reason why they gave us the name Fallen was really not the name of the race. Even more so that they came across a power known as Stasis, which you can tell, obviously, by the icing, that it is mostly ice. Ice, of course, which, of course, goes across all three classes between Warlock, Hunter, and Titan. I'm not a Warlock person. I'd rather be a Hunter or a Titan. That's just me. But, again, holding that off. Aside from that, guys, like I said, for the story itself, the campaign is actually 8 to 9 missions, give or take. Don't get me wrong, battles are definitely not for the faint of heart. They are not walks in the park. But the light power, you do actually start off at 1050. I think the cap currently right now for Destiny 2 is 1230. Or nope, that's not right. The cap for Destiny 2 right now is 1245. So you do have a lot of power that you can build up on. But as far as the stasis power, which is the ability to freeze, I want to say that the Hunters kind of got the short end, because I mean, I know they gave the Warlock, and I have a theory about this. This is just my theory, that in the Warlock class of Destiny 2, their super, as far as using stasis as a subclass, seems to be the most powerful one. Of course, Titans have Avalanche, which themselves, they can do shockwaves of ice, or they can, shock the ground, similar to how the Striker from the Arc class worked. But Hunters being able to throw two kind of scythes, two kind of mini scythes, one to actually do damage and one to slow down the enemy and still do damage. It's okay, but it feels like more of a one and done in a short situation, which makes me think that the Hunters got the short end of the stick in this campaign. That's just the short end of the stick of the deal. That's just my comparison on that. Even more so that, yes, there's still upcoming content and new raids that are happening. So again, it is fun I will say this, it is fun to play, but I wonder, because the story itself, it had 3 of them, of course. It had Eris Morn, it had the Drifter, and it had the Stranger, which again, the Stranger, who has not been seen since Destiny 1, has now came forward and admitted she was a time traveler and said that we need to learn to use the stasis power in order to avoid what's coming, which she's already seen, which is basically the destruction of all life. Now, I'm assuming because of Beyond Light 2, there will probably be another couple of things added to it. Would this be the final expansion for Destiny 2? I don't know. I mean, I might say they come in 3s, but at this point, Beyond Light is the third expansion of this. It's hard to say. But I will say it is worth playing just because of the story itself. And you will notice some things in the new update with Destiny 2, especially in the Crucible and the Gambit areas. Unfortunately, Gambit Prime is missing, has been removed. And weekly challenges, things of that nature, how you used to access stuff are in the different areas. But overall, if you are a Destiny fan, you are into it. It's definitely an investment of time, mostly time. But like I said, if you got a good group of buddies and you guys can get through it, this is actually going to be a breeze for you guys. But I loved it just because, again, I'm a Destiny fan. It's just hard not to find anything wrong with it, in my opinion. But like I said, definitely worth playing. So before I do get out of here, I do have some movie news, and some anime news to go before I do get out of here. Wonder Woman itself will be released not only in theaters, Wonder Woman 1984 I should say. Wonder Woman 1984 will also be released not only in movie theaters but also on HBO Max the same day. Now, I have been saying this. COVID-19 is really changing the way we're going to view movies. I mean, at this point, we haven't been, it's like movie theaters are open, but they are open due to COVID restrictions, reduced seating, masks, temperature checks, things of that nature, to allow people to go to the movies, but it's not the same as it used to be before pre-COVID. So a lot of these movie areas, especially with Mulan, of course, going to Disney Plus and had to pay an exorbitant fee for that. And of course, you saw Coming to America 2 will be released on Amazon Prime next year. So you're already seeing a lot of these movies that usually are slated to be in the movie theaters will probably be on-demand or streaming services. Wonder Woman 1984 is no different, considering that it will be on Christmas Day. So it's interesting where it will be in the movie theaters on Christmas Day as well as on the HBO Max streaming services. So if you have HBO Max, Along with being able to watch the Snyder Cut when that comes out of Justice League, you'll also be able to watch Wonder Woman 1984, which again will show a different side of Diana. And like I said before, it's just I want to see this because I still said the first Wonder Woman was awesome. It was great. Patty Jenkins did a wonderful job of directing it, and I'm pretty sure that Wonder Woman 1984 will do great as well. I just still hope. My hope for DC is that there has to be some sort of continuum, because if you're trying to do team ups like Justice League, it's not going to make any sense of how they got there. And that's going to be the only thing about it, because right now the only things that we know on the horizon that there will be an Aquaman sequel. The Flash is starting to take some sort of shape. We don't have a release date on that. The Green Lantern Corps has finally got their own writers and things of that nature. And of course, the Batman, which is currently in production right now. So this thing about it, I love DC to death, but I have concerns and hangups. And I always have concerns and hangups with DC just because it just seems like they just can't all get on the same accord. That's the only thing that's always bothered me about DC. The talent in the movies and the production is there. It's just there is no continuum if every movie's doing their own thing, but we'll still watch it. Even though also news is coming out. Black Panther 2 will actually start filming next year. No news so far on what'll happen, of course, with the late Chadwick Boseman and rest his soul of his passing. They are not going to use CGI or any type of body doubles to create his likeness, which means that a lot of fans when this first came out was talking about go ahead and having Shuri take the role of Black Panther. Of course, that she does. She takes the role of course, in the comics, Shuri does take the role of the Black Panther many times within the MCU comic universe. So there's definitely nothing there. I have said it before on multiple podcasts. I don't think that right now, because that has to show a hellified character growth for her to go from being the sort of the head of the Wakanda scientific division to straight into Black Panther in such a short amount of time, considering that the last time we saw Black Panther, as far as the character goes, was in Avengers Endgame. So again, as they're ramping up to do this for next year, I'm just curious to see what they're going to go about this. I said it best. If they're gonna go, if Shuri is going to take the role of Black Panther, it's got to be a sort of crux, and I think that's going to be the challenge for Black Panther if they decide to go with it. They did not say for sure if Shuri is going to take the male Black Panther. I think right now they're keeping it hush hush, which is a good thing to do, just because, like I said before, we're just not sure where they're going to go. But when it comes to Marvel and the MCU, they just seem to have it right. I mean, I've argued this with a friend. Marvel has yet to put on a quote-unquote horrible movie. They have been awesome movies, there have been great movies, and there have been good movies, but there hasn't been a quote-unquote terrible movie. So it'll be interesting to see where they go to from there on that. And of course, the last bit of news I got, guys, is basically My Hero Academia. If you follow the site like I do, this actually came up for My Hero Academia, which again, I find it interesting. At the same way, I don't know if I should be worried or scared, because this was currently on their website. Now, keep in mind, My Hero Academia, its episodes will be back next year for season 5. But of course, they are talking about the third movie, which again, this is all speculation, and I say speculation as a whole, because we do not know at this point. Of course, they're showing Deku, and of course Todoroki, and of course my boy Baki. They're showing my dude. It's just interesting to see where they go to from there. Like I said before, they say he will meet the Three Musketeers. So again, if this is the hints that there will be a third movie for My Hero Academia, then cool. I mean, Heroes Rising and Two Heroes was still great movies in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this now. Like I said, I'm personally looking forward to season 5 when that comes out, but I'm also looking forward to Demon Slayer, to see Infinity Train. Although I've read the manga and currently caught up in the manga, I can't still wait to see Infinity Train as far as the movie goes, just because it's going to introduce a different side of a lot of things. So between that, and I say usually my roundup of animes, just so you guys, if you hadn't noticed. First off, there's a world of anime out there. But mostly I've been following up on, of course, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Fire Force. I cannot wait for the Rising of the Shield Hero, which actually have a second season. Goblin Slayer, which will also have a second season as well. The God of High School. If you have not seen that yet on Crunchyroll, you definitely need to check that out. I'm trying to catch up on everything. Even though Netflix does have a few animes in there, it's like the King and Ashura and the Tengen Battles. Those are good too. Of course, Fate Zero, also still a good anime. And if you're like me, you still watch One Piece, because One Piece is actually very good. But One Piece is an extremely long anime that just seems to have no end. But those are the animes I'm currently following. If you have animes of yourself that you think are really cool but nobody knows about them, or just maybe they're not talked about as much, then definitely put those in the comments field, because I definitely want to know. And like I said, you might put me onto something, because a bunch of my friends have turned me on to anime I did not know about, and that's how I got into anime. So, you know, what you may know, another person may not know. So just share. That's all I'm saying. Sharing is caring. With that being said. So, with also that being said, guys, that's really all that I have for this podcast. Like I said, we try to cover a lot. I didn't want to hang too long on a certain topic or things of that nature. I definitely want to keep it moving. But before I do get out of here, I do have some shameless plugging to do, as I always try to do. Of course, with myself, this show does have its own YouTube channel. So if you go to the link here at the bottom, if you just copy and paste that in your browser, it'll take you to our Get Bit podcast on YouTube, to where you can like, share, and subscribe, and see every podcast that I've done previously. Also, my other buddy who also shared this, but is somewhere around here in the universe. I'm talking about my buddy Vaughn, Big BZA Dot. You know him because he has the Bernie Mac poster on this one. If you are a friend, cool. If not, you should be a friend. Vaughn's friendly. And once you're a friend, you'll be able to go to his page at BigBZA Dot, go to his videos, and you'll be able to see every podcast that he's done. I'll start with the first one, the VST Intercast. What is that? It is basically, as Vaughn likes to say, a big-ass kids show. Me and Vaughn are definitely no spring chickens, but, you know, we have responsibilities. We handle stuff. We are adults, but we also big-ass kids. We still love to play video games. We still love to listen to music and things of that nature, and do the things that actually made our childhood. Hence why the Intercast comes in. It talks about movies, video games, trailers especially. As I say about my buddy Vaughn is the king of weird trailers. As he sees right now, he's actually talking about the Xbox, PlayStation 5, and that's him down at the corner. But I call him the king of the weird trailers because he always seems to find the weirdest trailers in movies. Now, sometimes they're good, because he turned me on to a few movies. This one, yeah, this one right here, where he found apparently killers from space that are using sharks. Yeah, you could tell by the production. You can tell by the production on this one. It's definitely top-notch storytelling by Hollywood. But anyway, my buddy Vaughn usually finds those trailers, and like I said, the whole show is interactive, just like mine, so you can definitely talk to him. And that was a really bad trailer. I'm not gonna lie to you. Shark Encounters of the Third Kind. It made no sense. It actually stuck with Vaughn just because of one line at the end. But anyway, that's pretty much. Well, actually, that was not VST. Was that the VST? I'm pretty sure that was VST. Nope. It went to Random as Fuck. I am so sorry, Vaughn. That was... I literally put two things together. I thought that was VST. Let's actually go... Well, I mean, there's VST, although you did put that up. But let me actually go to your other podcast called Random as Fuck. What is Random as Fuck? It is the pool of ranches we sometimes tip our toe to and take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some bills make you think, some bills make you cry. On this one, you added your favorite one. I like to call Fuck Donald Trump, because let's be honest, that is no longer #1 in iTunes right now. Megan Thee Stallion has actually taken over that in iTunes. But his podcast, Random as Fuck, what does it do? It's basically a podcast about videos. Videos is weird as Trump supporters sitting outside election offices praying for them to stop counting the votes. Yes, that really did happen. Yes, Vaughn really did cover it. But he likes to show the craziness and the ratchetness of America, and therefore you don't have some fun with it. Reset your week. Reset your weeks on Tuesday, as he usually does it. But also interactive show just like mine. His other shows that he does have, The Rhythmness, where he reminisces over the rhythm. That show is a music podcast, obviously. What's so special about it? Well, Vaughn is a music connoisseur. He'll never say he's a music critic. He doesn't see himself as a music critic. I myself, on the other hand, I say what's good, what's hot, and also what's trash. And Vaughn and others like ourselves basically get together and listen to music that he finds, or sometimes ask us to find, and we give it our opinion. Do we like it? Do we hate it? Do we wish the producers stayed at DeVry University guy's degree? Things like that. But also, difference of opinions always lead to great conversations, and of course, that's also interactive as well for the Nest, so you can definitely jump into that. As you can see, Vaughn on the left and me on the right, that looks like I am just having the wonderfulest time at Comic-Con. Aside from that, guys, he does also have another show. It's more of a pop-up show called Fonkin' Around. Now, for all those that don't know what Fonkin' Around is, my buddy Vaughn likes to make beats. He is a man that definitely likes to play the keys like this. I still don't know why he has a box cutter there, but I'm pretty sure there's no reason. But anyway, but like I said, my buddy Vaughn likes to make beats. He likes to show the entire process of how he got there. At the same time, he shows his passion for it. Like I said, he's a very talented musical producer. And at the same time, definitely wants to show how he actually got there. And that's what Fonkin' Around this basically is. So all of his shows definitely can be found on his Facebook page at BigVZA. So definitely look him up, like him, share him, add him, make him your friend. You will not be disappointed. Aside from that, guys, I do have a few podcasts of my own. Of course, every Tuesday, so starting tomorrow at 7-9 p.m. will be the Burned Out Podcast. That is my IT storytelling podcast, in which I tell stories from my job as far as interacting with very special people. It's meant to be funny, so if you find it funny, that's great. And if you don't find it funny, then yes, I'm talking about you. You need to lighten up. Aside from that, guys, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon is my How the Frack We Got Here, my U.S. and political news podcast, in which we go over everything in the world that Dorito has tried to burn down. And now that he's about to be exiting us on January the 21st, I now have to find a new catchphrase for that. So everything that he burned down, Joe and Kamal are going to have to come in and clean up. We'll work with that. But anyway, interactive show, Political is that. Also later on that evening, that Saturday, between 8 to 10 p.m. will be the Off-Limits Podcast. This is the podcast that definitely goes there because we do talk about anything and everything on that podcast, and I do mean everything and anything. Only rule we have is that nothing is off limits because we're trying to move forward as a group and having progressive talks. And of course, on Sundays, going back to our usual time on Sundays, between 7 to 9 p.m., will be the Get Bit podcast that you're currently watching now. But all of my shows can be found on my Facebook page at William Buchanan, or either all the shows themselves have their own Facebook and YouTube pages. You can look them up by their names, or for the Get Bit podcast, again, use the link down at the bottom to find it on YouTube. But for on YouTube or Facebook, you can look them up by the Burned Out Podcast, How the Frack We Got Here, the Off Limits Podcast, and Get Bit, that's GITBIT, to be able to see every podcast that I've done thus far. Aside from that, guys, that's really all that I have. I do thank you, everybody who had liked, looked in, shared, subscribed, commented. I certainly appreciate that, who did live. And if you seem to watch this later, feel free to comment later. I still want to know everybody's opinions. Just because I can't be the only guy, I can't be the only blurt out here liking stuff. I know there's plenty of you out there that like the same stuff I do, or different stuff, or stuff I may not even know about. I still want to know my doggone self. But before I do get out of here, I know that we are on the D-Day to Turkey Day. So even though Thanksgiving's coming around, guys, please, oh please, still be responsible. COVID-19 is still out there. Please wear a mask. Please only go out if you need to. Please try to avoid really clogged up areas or large gatherings. I know with Thanksgiving it's going to be a little hard to do that. But like I said, we want everybody around for the next Thanksgiving because you never know what will happen between here and there. So definitely wear a mask. Definitely be safe. If you feel like you're getting sick, please isolate yourself. And if you are very sick, please seek medical attention. And also thank a doctor, a nurse, nurse's aide, doctor's aide, those environmental service people that seem to work in these hospitals. If you see them, just say thank you for all the work that they've done. Because much like teachers and everybody else that's underappreciated, they're not getting enough. But saying thank you does really help to let them know that you appreciate them. And also thank essential workers and try to be more nice to them. I do mean that so hardly. I mean those that work, those are truck stop drivers, those that work in gas stations, grocery stores, or retail, or in warehouses like Amazon, or logistics like United States Postal Service, FedEx, DHL, UPS, and things of that nature. Because like I said before, even though you may have the ability to work from home, and that's great, there are other people out there that may not have that ability and may have to risk their own health to go in and keep lights on for the rest of us. And like I said, It's way too much going on in the world to still be mad at people who are just simply just trying to make a living. And like I said, if you're nice, be kind, maybe the thing will pass on them, maybe we'll get a roll going. But aside from that, guys, that's really all that I got for Get Bit. I do thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you don't have a Thanksgiving, have a Friendsgiving. Or if, enjoy the peace that you have from hopefully not having to work Thursday and Friday. But aside from that, guys, I will catch back up with you guys tomorrow on the Burned Out Podcast. But until then,